to improve my audio. Let's see.
We are live, guys.
Yeah.
Wait, Pastor Lalo, see if you can move your phone since yeah,
There we go.
baby.
That's fine. That's better.
Yes, it's great.
Yeah. Okay. There we go.
Yeah. That is awesome. Yeah, I was getting scared. I'm like, where are they?
Here we
I'm super
are.
excited. Yay! So I'm so super excited that you guys are here. So StreamYard is a special platform that we use. And so the time that you set, you have to jump on unless you have to resend links out and all of this crazy stuff. So me and Micah are so happy we do not have to carry this thing alone. But I see people are starting to jump in. Hey, if you are watching, we are so excited that you are here today. As you are joining, I want you to know that today we are talking about the heart of a pastor. This is such an important topic, and I have three amazing pastors joining me today. So I don't know where you are in your situation. Um, I'll be honest with you, God has blessed me abundantly to serve under some amazing pastors who are still my pastors. I still consider them to be my pastors. I have their Christmas cards on my refrigerator. If I need counsel, I am talking to them. But I've also experienced some toxic situations. So wherever you are, I want you to know that is why we are here today. Sometimes we just don't know what we just don't know, right? So that is why we're talking about the heart of a pastor. Do you know the heart of your pastor? You need to have a healthy relationship with your senior pastor, with senior leadership. I don't care what you think, it matters in children's ministry. Okay, so I wanted to have this conversation so bad because I know the damaging effects when there is a disconnect between ministry leaders and senior leadership. So I am so excited. Listen, we are here today to grow, to learn. If you have comments, if you are going through something, please light up that chat box. Don't sit on it. This is your chance, okay, to get the help that you need. We are here to help you win and to help you move your children's ministry forward. We are going to get into expectations, and I know Pastor Kelly is going to be back in a second. We are going to get into expectations. Do you know what the expectations of your pastor is? There he is.
Yeah.
We knew you were not going to abandon us, okay, in our time of need.
Like I wasn't having a good time, so I'm just gonna leave.
That's it. I'm out of here. But we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into what are the expectations. Maybe there's a disconnect between what you think are the expectations and the actual expectations of your senior pastor. We need to know those things to thrive. What are the things that disappoint your senior pastor? We need to know that to thrive in children's ministry. What are those things that makes your senior pastor say, "Oh my goodness, this is so amazing"? We need to know those things. That matters, and that helps us to have a healthy children's ministry department. So, first of all, I have to tell you, we have some amazing people. So, Pastor Kelly James is in the house. And really, so what happened, I have to tell you, is that one of our pastors, his flight was coming in late. He was nervous. And I was thinking, I was like, who can I get? Who I know is amazing, who I know will add value to you all this evening, and who has amazing hair that will make you want to tune in. And I said, oh my goodness, I have to get Pastor Kelly on here.
Crazy.
So, Pastor Kelly, I am so excited that you are here. He is in the Dallas area, Pathway of Life Church, which is really really a church for Guy and I. It's a home away from home because we are always in Dallas, and tons of our family members that we have definitely inherited and adopted into our family and into our hearts, and we've been adopted into theirs, are in that congregation. So super excited that he is here. We have Pastor Reverend. I see that she put that there. Micah Tank is with us today from Scottsboro Cumberland Presbyterian Church. And I mean, the only thing that I can say about her that can really encompass our relationship is sister. She is literally my sister. So I was actually in the Chicagoland area as a children's pastor when we were called to Alabama because of my husband's work. And I had to tell everybody that I was leaving, and people were sad. And I went to office to let them know what was happening. And it was funny, her mother-in-law, I worked with her mother-in-law, and I told her, and she was so excited. And I'm like, why is this woman celebrating that I'm leaving? Did I do a bad job? And she's like, no, I have family. I have family in Huntsville. And I'm so excited to connect you with them. Our hearts were, immediately there was a connection with her and her amazing husband, Brian. Super excited that she is here. And of course, Pastor Lalo. Yes, obviously, he's incredible. He's amazing. I've had the most amazing opportunity to really sit and hear his heart about the next generation over this past summer. It was such an honor. I've had the opportunity to make God's word come alive through dance and the arts with his wife on the stage. And it was just absolutely amazing. He's with Gente Unida in Westbrook Christian Church in the Chicagoland area. So super excited that you guys are here and joining us for this important conversation. But before we get started, I would be remiss if I did not say thank you for being with us today. Thank you for serving. Thank you for, even when you are carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, you carry our burdens with you. This has been one of the craziest seasons. I'm trying to find I don't think it's an eloquent way to say how crazy this season has been. So I think I need to thank you for not quitting. I feel like that's necessary right now. But we are just so grateful for your leadership. We are so grateful. We know that you carry things that we cannot imagine. This is why we are having this conversation today. So we're going to jump right into this. I kind of skipped the introductions, but I think that that's okay with you guys. And Pastor Kelly, I want to start with you. And as you guys are jumping on, listen, if there's something on your heart, I mentioned it before, if there's something and you're going through a situation, maybe you're going through a situation with your senior pastor, you have senior pastors right here. Please share your heart. We're going to be looking at that chat box. Shout out to Tammy, who is just the most amazing blessing to Child's Heart, who is going through that, who is responding. Thank you so much, Tammy, for being with us today. So, Pastor Kelly, I'm going to start with you, and then I want you guys to chime in as well. For those who are watching, for children's ministry leaders who are watching today, paint a picture for us of the weight of carrying this mantle of senior leadership. If you could just for a moment just open up a grace portal for children's ministry leaders to fall into, who just may not understand, wow, my pastor is carrying stuff like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Esther, for allowing me to jump in here with you guys. And I feel like, I feel like I'm just honored to be amongst so many great people and movers and shakers in the kingdom. It's a great question because it's a really new question for me. My story is I've just been a lead pastor for a year. I was serving in the same church for 27 years as the worship leader. So I just went through a transition to where our pastor, it started going into the retirement season of his life. And so I'm 1 year in as a lead pastor. So I have been really assessing very much the weight, because it's been such a shift of what it was then and what it is now. And, I think one of the weights that I feel is really just making sure that the vision is precise and clear for the church. I feel so much the weight of the vision, meaning it's important that I know that's my job. is to make sure everybody understands the vision and making sure that it's leaking out to all the areas of the ministry, including the children's ministry. Managing resources is a weight. That's a weight I didn't have to carry before. So trying to make sure that every all the bills are paid and making sure all the ministries are taken care of, and making, that's one of the things that I realized, because I was that one of the ministries in the church. So I know now where I used to go, oh, come on, why can't we just buy another projector? What's the problem? I now know why it's a problem.
I know you got that money.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just come on, just bring it up. Just show us the money. But it's not that simple anymore. So it's amazing how quick that became a weight. And of course, we don't have to say it, but the COVID has been definitely a weight, and especially taking over a church in the middle of COVID. It's like, hey, I got a good idea. Why don't you carry this 44-year-old church into the future in COVID? And good luck, buddy. We'll see you.
During the pandemic. No big deal.
Right. So, but I think the greatest weight, honestly, as I was reading through this question is the weight of the people. I was not ready. I was not, I didn't think, I thought I was ready, but I was not ready with how much of the weight of people's needs in the church. I mean, your heart just, and if you're a shepherd, you feel the weight of the sheep, you feel the needs of the sheep. And so, man, just the worry of people, and trying to learn how to manage that, and trying to learn how to let it go when you go home at night. And just, that was a big weight for me, is just the worrying of the people, and so that's a few things that I jotted down.
Yeah, absolutely. Pastor Lalo, chime in on this. I mean, do you agree, or is there more? I'm not going to say less, because is there more and more? Oh, I think your sound is I think you're muted. I think I know that you were spitting some wisdom on us today.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. I think that I could not agree more with Pastor Kelly, because I think a very important thing is just to cast vision with the leaders and the volunteers, because sometimes we just take, we already know this, we already know that, we already know why we are here. But I have found that there's like gasoline, and if we can share that vision constantly through the stories that are happening, to celebrate the stories that are happening through the child ministry, that is very key for us. For example, we have seen how important is to everyone involved in the child ministry what God is doing right now, not what God did in the past, but right now in these moments, and very important moments. So we try to seek for stories, right? We want to create conversations with the parents, with the children, and to know, hey, this is your first time here. Yes, and my child just loved this. He wants to come back. Wow, that's something that we are very intentional to communicate to the volunteers. Say, you know what? Because what you did, a child just got closer to God, and he wants to return, or she wants to return, and we are creating a future for that family through Jesus Christ. And so I think that what Pastor Kelly just said is very important. The other thing that I just, to be honest, that I am still learning as a pastor, a congregational pastor at Gente Unida, is to to have difficult conversations, because sometimes, I just want everybody to love me, to like me, and everything is cool, everything is smooth, and wow, everything is right. But sometimes you found out, oh my God, that is not part of our culture, or the culture that we are creating as a church, and that is not the type of conversations with the parents that we need to have, or the approach maybe it could be different. So have that kind of conversations when you just try to correct something, but at the same time feel valuable to the person, feel the person valuable. Sorry about I'm still probing and learning. Feel the person valuable and prayed and loved. That is very important. And I think, to be honest, for me, is one of the things that stresses me a lot. But
Yeah.
I have learned if
Yeah.
I don't have that kind of difficult conversations,
Yeah.
well, it can become a thing that it can be worse later, right?
Yeah.
So that's I think that's one of the things that I have learned, and at the same time, like. Through this whole pandemic situation, to be loving with the
Mm.
volunteers, to understand their situations, their reality, but at the same time to keep the culture, to keep the approach, to keep the type of conversations, or approach to the families as well. So it's kind
Yeah.
of the things that we are facing right now as
I
well.
love it, you guys. Pastor Micah, talk to us. I mean, really chime in on this, but one of the questions that I would have, even engaging a little deeper into this conversation about what you all carry, as pastors. Talk to us about the mantle of discouragement, of having to carry discouragement. How heavy of a load is that? I mean, whether it be the discouragement of the people during such a discouraging season, or even your own discouragement. I think that we forget that you guys are real people.
We're just, yes. So I think I like to echo the part of the weight is people. We carry people at all times, and that's how it should be, because I love the people that I get to shepherd. I love them deeply. But then I think if you go a step deeper, church for so many people is very sentimental and very nostalgic.
Yeah.
There's a particular thing you envision when you envision church. And if church doesn't do what you think it should, we're now messing with people's feelings of sentimentality in church. So the weight of that comes across, we call it, my husband and I call it death by paper cuts. It's sniping over all these small little things that really are they a big deal to the vision of the church or where we're headed next? No, but you're going to hear it all the time, and you're going to hear it from a lot of different people, because now we're messing with things that feel very sentimental and very nostalgic to them.
Yeah.
You just have to tread with a lot of caution. There's both understanding for that, while also pushing people to see beyond, this is not a major issue, it's a small thing. And so we can move ahead together if we can aim it that way. So holding on to that, understanding it, but also moving forward is a really important to find.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. We are seeing really we're seeing a decline in the church.
Yes.
If we're really following research and statistics, and we're seeing really with millennials and Gen Zers, as they are growing up, they are choosing to kind of be outside of the four walls of a church. And we know that, some of the reasons that may keep them there as millennials are the parents. They represent a lot of the parents of the Gen Zers, of the population of the children that we have in our churches and in our children's ministry, whatever format that you come from. A lot of them are looking for things that have things for the entire family. So if we're looking for a church, we are looking for a body that offers spiritual growth for everybody, not just for the grown-ups, but for the kids as well. So speak to us, tell us how children's ministry fits into the broader vision of your church. Pastor Lalo, hit this. I know we've got to talk a little bit about your passion for the next generation. How does children's ministry fit into your broader vision for the church as a whole?
Well, definitely, I think that we are still right now. We have the privilege to invest in the church that is gonna the church that is gonna be here in 50 years or 100 years. It's right now with us. So we are investing, and we are very intentional, and right now on invest all the resources, all the focus, all the attention in the church that we're gonna face, that we're gonna have in 50 years. So I think that it's key for us to understand the culture that our millennials and old are surrounded by, and a constantly process of learning. I think it's like almost forget what we have already known, and to be open to new approach, and not about the word, but about the way to reach, to get involved, to have conversations, and I think that is the key. And so from the kids minister perspective, I think it's key for us that because we are a Hispanic congregation, and most of the children right now are facing hard realities and situations in their homes, and we want them to have a place of safety, of healing, and we want to be aware of the things that they are exposed, so we can share the message in a way that they can understand, and not only understand but embrace, and not only embrace but to feel, make them feel that we know them and that we care of the things that they are facing right now. I think that's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that things are constantly changing, and I mean, just even researching recently, just all of the changes in technology, the advancements of technology, and I love how you're talking about the church in 50 years and investing in what the church is going to be 50 years from. We don't know what is it. We could all have we could have glasses on our head that we could be in the metaverse in 50 years. We don't know, but being ahead of those things, I think it's so important that we're ahead of those things, because this is what the next generation is going to be immersed in. This is going to be the church of 2040, 2050, 2060,
and sometimes I just and my experience is that sometimes we fall in love with the I don't know if this is the right word, with the ways or the forms, but not with the why, right? With we want to connect with the generation. Well, Jesus is the master of that, and we sometimes we love this kind of, because this is the way that we that work in the past. We keep that way, but like you said, we have to be aware of the new things and how can we use them as tools to share the gospels in a more effective way with the new generation, I think. Absolutely. And it's a constantly learning.
It is a constant battle of learning and educating ourselves. Absolutely agree. Pastor Kelly, how are you fitting in the children's ministry and the greater vision and the importance of reaching our next generation?
Yeah, absolutely. Diversity is one of our core values. I mean, and it's not just diversity by way of just races. It's diversity of age. We're very multi-generational focused. Now, we don't have it perfected, but one of my 3-year plans is to really make sure that we are reaching every generation of our church in a measurable spiritual growth. I mean, not just we got an event, but really are they growing? Because again, we talk about the millennials, and we talk about how they're becoming unattracted to the church. I think for the children's ministry, we got to start winning them there. We got to start winning them. We got to get ahead of this social media influence by way of it not influencing them straight out of the church as soon as they graduate high school. And so just really trying to create this approach to being able to see this generational thing connect. For us, it was a big thing because we had the big gap. Of course, we have children's ministry, we got youth, but then we had the big gap. What happens when they graduate? Experts say that, the age of your pastor, you add 20 years older than them and 20 years younger than them, and that's usually your congregation. That has proven to be true for us. And so now I'm a little younger than my previous pastor, than our founding pastor. So the whole goal is to be able to reach more people, but it's really more to go to the children and go, okay, listen, this is what we do. So when you go from children to youth, there is just got to be a process that's keeping that thing alive all the way through. We don't have it perfected. I just know that God's laid on my heart to try to build the bridges so we don't have the fall off, that we don't have the weird 20 something age that's the deconstructing Christianity group and all of these things that it could be a little bit of a negative impact to seeing it. So I'm not thinking of children's ministry in the present. I'm thinking of those kids that when they were little and they were 3 years old and used to come up and grab your leg and they were so glad to see you. Well, man, you blink, now they're 13,
Yeah.
And then you blink and now they're 23. When we're a 44-year-old church, so we've got this history of seeing these kids grow up and grow out, and then you see your heart crushed when you see that once they get out there, you feel this like, where did we fail?
Yeah.
All the way when they were back in Ricardo Miller's children's ministry.
Who's that guy?
Yeah, I mean, I ain't putting on him, but I'm just saying, where did we fail? Where could we have shored things up a little bit more to make sure that there was something a little deeper in it? And like I said, I can't give you five things to make that happen tonight, but I'm just telling you that's something that's on my heart.
Yeah, and I love it. You guys, I'm looking at this chat box, and when it comes to the vision, of the church, when it comes to the next generation, of course, we want to be collaborating, of course, with those who are reaching the next generation, who have been called and assigned to reach the next generation in our spaces. And I see a question here that I think is so significant. It says, how much time do you all spend with your children's ministry director or pastor or leader? Do you know what their challenges are and their recent wins? I think that is a great question. Thank you for asking that. Do any of you want to take a go? I know, Pastor Micah, I know for you're in a very unique situation.
Yes.
Where you're kind of manning, kind of like them both. I know that you have leaders and helpers in your children's ministry. You're kind of senior. Yeah. I mean, you're like Superwoman. You're kind of doing them both.
No, so on one hand, my husband and I are co-pastors, and he's mainly responsible for Christian education. So how much time I spend with him is a lot, because we live together and we work together. It's a lot of time. And then on top of that, because Christian education is such a big span, we thought when we first started 6 years ago, it would be really interesting to have a senior pastor primarily tasked with children's ministry. In part because we believe you cannot lead children to a place you're not willing to go yourself. So for us, that's been a really important concept, that if we're not willing to do these things or change our lives or follow Jesus in incredible ways, why are we expecting our children to do the same thing? And by marrying this vision together, what this has produced is that children's ministry is just a part of the regular ministry life. It's not siphoned off. So they're regularly participating as regular Sunday worshipers or community service projectors or whatever it is. They are regular participants with everybody else in the congregation in a way that they can handle and understand. And that's been a really important piece for us. But it's true, my context is really different in that I really know my children's pastor, because it's both me and my husband. So the time spent is handled.
But Micah, I love these conversations and I love the amazing voices that we bring on to have these conversations, because there is different context for so many people who tune in, people who watch this later. They come from all different backgrounds and all different types of situations. It's not one size fits all situations. So, and I love that this is a platform that reaches everybody. Sometimes that we have people where they have family ministry. Their children sit in the service and they have ministries for them set on particular days. We have ornate children's ministries that have been created, for the kids during Sundays. There's all different types of context that we come from, but that is what Child's Heart is all about. But I want to dig deeper into success. Because I know, and I'll tell you from someone who's in children's ministry, we have our idea of what success is when it comes to children's ministry. And I think it can be very dangerous when our definition of success and the senior pastor's definition of success are two very, different directions. So speak to us. on what is, and this is something I want all of you to chime in on. What is your definition of success when it comes to children's ministry? Of, okay, we're killing it. Okay. What is that definition for you?
You want me to? I'll jump in and I'll go first. I think a soft answer for me is fun. Something that's attractive to the community, kids having a good time. Obviously, you want that to be something, but I think more of a firmer answer for me is, are we being talked about around the dinner table? Is children's ministry being discussed on the way home? Is the discussions of what's happening on our Sundays? Is it something that's being threaded through the week? And is the impact enough to where kids are still talking about it on Tuesday? And there's something, and there's something measurable what's going on in their spiritual life. I mean, for me, I really, I want it to be fun. I want to have all of the bells and the whistles. I want to be able to do all those things. But really, I really believe, and just kind of piggyback on what I said a while ago, is really what is measurable spiritual growth in their life. And at that stage, with all of these influences that we're all dealing with, and all of the stuff that's happened even since the pandemic, and the social media influence, and the distraction of it, and all of the things, not just social media, gaming, and all of these things that are good, but what is it that is measurable spiritual growth? I think is probably what I would consider to be successful, when it feels like it's threaded through the home, and they're still talking on Tuesdays.
Yeah. I love that, Pastor Kelly. I think what you're getting at is, are we creating disciples? Because if we're not creating disciples out of this next generation, what are we doing? And we had to speak in Orlando this past weekend, and we met our kids' godparents were down there, and we went to a church. I love this because we got to visit their church. It was a small church. It wasn't a big church. It was definitely a church that you could tell was impacted greatly by the pandemic, and that their numbers were significantly down. Huge room, but very, very low on numbers. And I remember taking the kids back, and it was probably 3 kids in their children's ministry when we dropped them off. 2 of them were our children. Okay, we have 2 kids, so it was 3 kids in there. And I remember, and this was such a lesson to me. We create these ornate spaces. We try to get people in line. We have these incredible check-in systems, and sometimes we can lose sight of actually creating. Are we creating disciples? How are we measuring, us creating disciples? But when we left, Grace and Gideon were raving about everything that they learned. That was so much fun. I give this 10 out of 10. I mean, Gideon was telling us the whole story, of David, and really going into it. And I'm probably making that up. I think with a different biblical character, but I'm going to do David because that's what I can think of right now. But you could tell that this was a teacher of God's word who was really discipling them and leading them and guiding them. So I absolutely love that. And it wasn't a big space, because we can be judgy. We can be judgy, I am a millennial. Okay. I'm on the edge, but I made it. Okay. So I consider myself a young person.
Well, just real quick, I'll jump in. My wife and I had lunch with a couple in our church, and the girl's young. She's like in her 20s, and she newly saved. And so she been in our service. We just want to spend some time with them. And she was just like, how do you know all this stuff about the word? I mean, about the Bible. Yeah. I'm just trying to be disciplined to read a scripture every day. I mean, and I went back in my answer, and I said, I grew up in this. And it made me appreciate those Sunday school teachers for me, and those just that little. I mean, it wasn't anything that was the bells and the whistles and the lights and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so simple, but it made me realize so much has just been ingrained in me that I didn't even realize. And I think that's what it maybe feels real throwback, but I think it's got to get back to that to a certain extent, to where there's really something measurable, and these kids are learning the word of God.
Yeah. How do we, in this world where they're immersed right? In digital technology, because we're not saying go backwards, right? We still want to move forward, but how can we teach them and disciple them in this brave new world, that makes our heads spin because of the technological advancements, but something that I find to be very quite easy for them. It's harder for us, I think, and I think it's easier for them. How can we truly create disciples, which I believe is possible as we're moving ahead and forging ahead in the future? But you guys chime in on this. What is your definition of success in children's ministry? I want to say this because I think that this is so good. To me, in our chat box, to me, success is seeing the growth of the ministry moving in the area of the need of the children being led by the Holy Spirit. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. But tell me, what is your definition? Lalo, what is your definition of a successful children's ministry?
I think that's very important, Esther, when that everybody in the children's ministry to say the same thing. And I think we are still improving on that, right? To make that very clear. Yes, but for me, it's to leave an impression of God in their heart that's going to last forever. For me, like Pastor Kelly just said, I remember the first lesson in the Bible that I received when I was a child. And like he said, it was different. But it was honest. And I think that's very important because we have to be honest with the children that we are teaching. It's, like you said, it's discipleship. So it's I'm going to transfer my life. I'm going to transfer what I am living. And yes, it's important that the material and all the stories and all the plans and all that we have, but beyond that, to connect our hearts with the children's hearts through the honesty and the reality of I am facing, and how can they get that in their deep heart. I think that is clever, but I think that leave an impression of God that lasts in kids and their hearts.
Absolutely. Pastor Micah.
Yeah, so I think I have kind of two answers. One, success for children's ministry is when children believe in Jesus Christ, and they love him, and they want to follow him. Which I think is just also being a successful Christian in some ways.
Yeah.
But I also think part of what is really important in children's ministry, I'm a parent. Part of what I do as a parent is I make sure that my child can flourish when she becomes an adult, right? It's why I don't do all her chores for her, because she needs to learn how to do these things, the building blocks to eventually be an adult on her own.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways I see the flourishing of children's ministry in the same way, that we've got to create the building blocks for children as followers of Jesus or who believe in Jesus to become successful adults who believe in Jesus and follow Jesus, which gets back to a comment from earlier that, one of my greatest fears is children will go through children's ministry, go through youth, graduate youth group, and graduate church.
Yeah.
And that means we failed. We failed in giving them the ability to succeed as an adult Christian by not building those building blocks in as children.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right in the same line. There's a book I'm reading called Social Justice Parenting, right? Teaching our kids how to be kind, compassionate. I think it actually says on the anti-racist, people who are accepting of all people, regardless of their race, gender, ethnicity. And it really digs into us being an example. What are we doing? How are we leading the way and showing them how to live? How are we being kind? And it was a wake-up call for me as a parent, and really watching how I act, how I respond. There was a survey that was given to children on what they thought was more important to their parents: being kind to others, or their kids growing up and being successful and and flourishing in all those ways. And the kids actually said, oh, definitely being successful and flourishing in all of those ways. They didn't really see a value in kindness. And it was really a wake-up call to me to make sure that we're doing that in children's ministry, make sure that we're doing that in our home as parents, self-proclaimed parent as well. What can we do to make sure that we're showing them to be kind and compassionate and really to be like Jesus? So I love this so much. You guys, I'm reading this chat box. It is awesome. I'm reading it. You're chiming in. This is great. So listen, I want to dig into, we have a lot of children's pastors and leaders who tune in, who watch later. Explain to us what are your expectations, okay? Because let me tell you something. This is me, I'm talking about me. I've gotten into trouble because I did not understand the expectations of the senior pastor. I mean, we were on two totally different wavelengths. And ultimately, we got it together. But I think a lot of us can dodge a lot of unnecessary confusion when we understand the expectations. As a senior pastor, what is your expectation for a children's pastor or those who are leading in children's ministry?
Well, no, go first.
No, please. I was thinking. I'm pausing.
Okay. 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 I think obvious the passion for kids. That's totally right. And love for that he or she loves God, definitely. But just as an add, to connect it with the culture, I think it's important to be connected with the culture. I don't know. I know already what is Minecraft, but I wish to know better Minecraft. So
and by the time you learn, it's over.
Yeah. Okay. So, for example, right, and definitely creativity. Creativity, I think it's very important because. Honestly, I admire so much the children volunteers. Once I was a teacher in the kindergarten, and it is tough. Yeah. I admire them so much. They have a special gift from God because, wow, the children. You can have your plan, but you can get your plan done in 5 minutes. So I really admire them. So creativity, I think that is very important to. I think, another thing that I consider very important is to empower others. I don't know, maybe we have a tendency to, this is my position, this is my role, and I don't know, but I've been there in that place as well. We can't to keep it for me. No, it is all about empowering others, and let's share and let's celebrate and let me help you. Maybe you're gonna find your own the way that you are wired to. Let me help you to find that, and let's discover this together.
Yeah, a team builder. Yeah, I love it. What are the expectations, Pastor Micah? Jump in on it. What are the expectations?
One expectation is to invest in family systems, not just children. You get to see those kids 1 hour, 3 hours, whatever, a week, but their parents are with them all the time. So if we're not hitting the parents, we're missing the boat. Parents are really important to the faith life of their children.
That's so good.
And as a senior pastor, please don't siphon yourself off from the church. And I understand there are churches where that's the reverse. I also want to say senior pastors don't siphon the children's ministry off from the rest of the church. Because the stories, the testimonies, the experiences that you guys can share as children's ministers with the rest of the church builds momentum, creates energy, creates passion, which I believe is joy, which is a fruit of the Holy Spirit, and we could all use a little more of it. Not siphoning off the children's ministry or the children's ministry pastor off from the rest of the church. It's really important to making sure that we're on the same page on the one hand, but also that we're learning from the children that sit in our pews.
Absolutely. Pastor Micah, I have to tell you, my first position in children's ministry, and I'll tell you, seminary trained, after I graduated from seminary, you are immediately thrown, into leadership. You don't have a clue on what you're doing. Because they don't actually teach you, how to survive people, when you get a lot of theology. But it was so funny. My first position, I'm like, yes, I'm ready for this. I'm seminary trained. And that's exactly what happened. They had separated themselves. So the first church I got hired to, the children's ministry office was, they had a childcare, slash preschool that they had that was connected to the church. And that office was down there. And the entire staff was all upstairs. I mean, I think I had to walk through like 50 dark, it was a big church, 50 dark hallways to actually get to the actual staff. And I remember thinking, what in the world is going on? And they had actually created a culture where there was division between the children's ministry and the rest of leadership. And what happened was, and it all started with, they wanted to the preschool director trying to take over this room, and they can't have it. And there was a big war between the preschool, and I'm like, what is going on? I'm new. I did not take a class for this. But the first thing that I did, I said, it's time for us to move the office upstairs. The whole staff, definitely needs to be together. But absolutely, it's so true, because it's so easy. And what happens? We think that we're on the island all by ourselves when it's simply not true. So I think that is so important. I love how you talk about it.
I don't want to cut you off, but to add to that, like, if you think bubble machines are fun for children, they're probably fun for everybody else in the congregation too, right? Like, there's this sense that like you can't get away with things in the greater church that you can get away with in children's ministry. And what I've seen is that's just not true, that people are hungry for that kind of creativity too in adult life. And when we separate people out, we don't get to benefit from that. It's just incredibly important.
Anyway. I love that. I love that. No, I love that. Thank you for adding that. Pastor Kelly, what are your expectations of a children's pastor?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've been very, very blessed, as Esther knows. Pastor Ricardo has been on staff with us as a children's pastor. Now he's transitioned to more of an operations pastor, and so man, he's just a high level guy, so he's made things really easy. But I think one of the things that I feel like that I would expect moving forward from our children's pastor is to do a significant amount of work outside of the office. Go to some little league games, go to some birthday parties. I just think the community factor is so needed in the day that we live in. I think it is a mission field just to go sit in the bleachers for 30 minutes, talk to parents, high five the kids. And I think that not only reaches the parents that attend your church, it's reaching the aunt that's sitting next to him that came and thought, man, how cool is it that the children's pastor came and cheered on Billy? Everybody knows he's terrible at baseball, but he's still here. He's still here cheering him on. I think that will be when we hire another children's pastor. That will be one of my things. Like, hey, don't hang out here. I know you got to do office and admin stuff. But let's work your schedule to where you've got some weekend. I know you got family, but you got some time where you're going to stop by and really get into the world and get into the community, get into the world of our children, but get into the community as well. And you never know how God will use you to reach people and even grow our church with just sitting on bleachers, So that's what I would add.
This is such like a holistic perspective. I mean, when you smash all of these together, it is like the most extraordinary children's leader but I love it. I love it. I think all of these things are important. I think building community, these days is not just about being good with kids. We want to be good with kids, right? But we want to make sure it's someone who can empower others and leaders and care about the family as a whole and see it as a family ministry. These are all so good and so important. But, I really believe that we can also learn from failures, which I think that my platform is probably built off of a lot of failures that I have had. But I love it because that's what we need. We need transparency. I think it's not about the failures in and of themselves, but what we learn and how we grow out of those. So now I want us to cross over into that sad word called disappointment. No one likes that word, but I think we felt it a lot this season, so we're probably used to it now. But we're talking about disappointment. What are some of those lessons that we can learn from you? Pour some of your wisdom on us on what are those things as a senior pastor when it comes to children's ministry, whether it's your children's ministry leader or whether it is the children's ministry in general or people who are serving or people in the congregation. What are some things that disappoint you as a senior pastor when it comes to that? Because we don't want to disappoint you.
I'll jump in real quick. Mine's real short. I think what's disappointing is not so much. Again, I've been really blessed to have a great children's pastor, but I think what's disappointing is the lack of passion for kids.
Yeah.
As this is usually the way it is, at least in our world.
Yeah.
It's been children's pastor loves kids. He's got those 2 or 3 around him that love kids. And the rest of them are just there that you're hoping will show up and serve in their spot. I just hate to see that that passion drop off between the head leader to those 2 or 3 people that are around him that are supporting him, then to the rest of the time. So then you got the pastor, the children's pastor, that is having to spend all their time trying to get people to go and serve kids. And so I think it's disappointing, and it's not really a disappointment to point my fingers at anybody. It's just, it's heartbreaking to see that, man, something so important and something so significant to not only society, but even the future of our church is it just seems to be, it's babysitting. And I hate that part. I don't know if we need to pray more, if we just need to pray that God will give us passion for kids, or just we need to train more, or we just need to, or maybe like others have said, that maybe it just needs to be a little bit upside down to where we are a children's, like she said, a church that is children. And maybe
Pastor Kelly, get the bubbles out.
Right. Maybe I'm not doing my part as a lead pastor to go, we are all about children in this place. You don't, if you're going to be a part of here of our church in serving, at some point, you're going to have to understand that children are a big deal around here. Yeah. So that's a little bit of the disappointment, is just a drop off of passion for them.
Yeah, absolutely. We need that passion. Lalo.
Yes, well, like I agreed with Pastor Kelly about that. We are blessed with a great, incredible team of, with Kristen Mitchell and Tammy Parker and Belém Carreño, that they are working so hard with the children. And at the same time, I just feel responsible for things that are not happening, because maybe I'm not casting the vision enough. Maybe I'm not sharing stories enough. I don't know. But one of the things that I maybe we are, I don't know if this apply to many, but it applies to us, and it has happened to us, that maybe we are working so hard and align the way that we're gonna work with the children's ministry. For many reasons, we decided this is the way that we're gonna do it, and suddenly there comes a volunteer with a loving heart, but maybe, hey, you know what? But in my church and every years, this is the way that I've been taught, and this is the way that I'm gonna do my lesson. And okay, we are open to creativity. We are open. We are open to conversations. I think that's great. But if suddenly, sometimes the person wants to do their own way.
Are you about to fight somebody?
Their own way. So that's the thing that honestly, I when I saw this, oh my goodness. Okay, let give me wisdom, Lord. Let us guide them with love, but at the same time with clarity. And it's because we love them that we need to have that kind of conversation, not because we are rejecting them. No, it's because, hey, I see you in what God is doing into the future, and I think we need you here, and we need you aligned with us.
Yeah. People who won't budge their way, for the greater vision. Absolutely. I think for children's ministry leaders, and I'll speak for some, I'll definitely speak for myself, that is disappointing when people are stuck, with one way. We had a teacher. I came out of the Presbyterian church originally, and since then have been a part of so many other denominations. But I remember we had a teacher who, she just wouldn't budge when I came in. She talked about heaven, hell, and the Holy Spirit. Those are her 3 things. And people complain all the time about her. And she taught preschoolers that. She led the preschool ministry. And she just, whatever curriculum you threw at her. And I'm like, oh, this is breaking my heart because of the greater vision, and she was missing it because she was so obsessed with her way. So absolutely, completely agree. Pastor Micah, what disappoints you? What breaks your heart?
I hate the phrase, "I've done my time,"
Mm.
or "I don't have kids that age anymore." Well, so that's what I want to say. I don't care. Like, if you're good at children's ministry,
Yeah.
you're good at children's ministry. If you're a good children's ministry volunteer,
That's
you're
so
likely a good children's ministry volunteer.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's a cop out of an excuse, just to be really frank, because I can also say, well, I'm not a 70-year-old woman, but I still go visit them, you know, like that doesn't make sense. So I just think the phrase, "I've done my time," has become really damaging. And I hear it most often when it comes to working with children as a way to not have to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good.
That is so good. Don't ever say that. Oh, don't ever go to Pastor Micah's church.
Please. Clearly, like, it's a thing.
I love it. You guys, I know that for me, I loved staff meeting. I'll just be honest with you. Maybe that's weird, but I did, because it was an opportunity for me to come together. I felt like with my tribe, like we were leaders coming together, come with this vision, and it was just such an amazing time. And it was really a time where we would report what was going on in our ministry areas and how we can come together and support one another. So when you are in that position, staff meeting, whatever it looks like, when you come together, you guys speak on the things that get reported that really make you celebrate. I mean, things that make you smile from one ear to another ear when it comes to the children's ministry, about things that are happening, things that make you say, oh man, our children's ministry leader is so amazing, and I'm so proud of him or her for doing that. What are those things? Pastor Kelly, you started us off. What are those things?
Yeah, I think, I celebrate when, when an event turns out, a children's event turns out really well and successful. We had a lot of volunteers help with it. I celebrate that. I celebrate when a community's touched. I celebrate hard work. I celebrate when the kids are being reached throughout the church. I mean, I celebrate all those things. But I think, and it's probably because I'm a kind of a creative guy, being a musician and singer, but I celebrate creativity and fresh ideas. I like when something is fresh and create. I mean, it's easy for anybody, and not just children's ministers and pastors. It's easy to settle into this works, and I think kids are I don't want to say so easily entertained, but you obviously got to bring it. But you throw candy at them, it's like, oh, we call it good. But sometimes I think we can get a little bit a little bit lazy on our approach and go, okay, what is something really out of the box that we can do for VBS, or something we can do for the sermon series that's going on, and really, really tap in. I mean, before God was anything, he was a creator. I mean, and so I think there's a creative access that we have to the Father. And I think if we just sit and allow ourselves to go, all right, what fits into the culture of our church? What fits into the vision of our church? And let's just sit around here and let's just think and allow that creativity to flow. I think I celebrate that the most, is just those fresh ideas, and go, that so cool. So that would be my applause.
I love that. Fresh ideas. Pastor Kelly's looking for innovation. Okay. Innovative, fresh ideas. And I think that's something, as children's ministry leaders, we can be definitely weak on. In my book, The Progressive Children's Ministry Leader, the first chapter was all about how progressive leaders are readers, and we read, and that's how we get more creative. But when we're constantly reading and investing in our personal development and our growth, you can't help but to become more creative and innovative, and for all of those ideas to start flowing. So I definitely agree with those fresh ideas. Pastor Lalo, what are those? What do you celebrate?
First of all, I celebrate. Thank you for inviting me to this conversation. I'm learning a lot from Micah, from Kelly. I'm learning a lot. I'm so excited and thankful for that. And I think that definitely creativity, as Pastor Kelly says, that when idea doesn't have final idea, but that idea can lead you to another idea and another idea, and at the end you end with something completely new. I think that thing, it seems to me amazing. When I celebrate is when I hear we had too many children and we don't have enough volunteers.
Yeah.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that when children are coming and we have to find more volunteers. I love to hear that because it's like a problem about growth. And honestly,
so you
I love to hear that.
celebrated
And I
while
love
we're
to hear
crying in the
when
corner.
the fathers tell me, hey, you know what? My child just he was begging me to bring.
Michael, what do you celebrate?
I celebrate when a kid says, that's my church, right? So if they pass by the church and they go, that's my church, that's my home.
I love
That is a huge when they can say that and claim the church is theirs.
Yeah.
So that's
so
a big
good.
one. And I mean, baptism.
Yeah.
Pastor, I love baptizing. It is emotional and
Oh, yeah.
meaningful and incredible because that's what we're called to do. Go and baptize and disciples. And so baptizing is such an honor.
I love this. I love this. Pastor Lalo, I know you got cut off a little bit. But we were celebrating with you and all of the kids. And I said you're celebrating while we're crying in the corner, praying for more volunteers.
Yeah, but I love that. I love to hear. Hey, if children are coming, okay, God, lead us to the next volunteers that we need to develop. To constantly develop. That is what we have found that we have to be doing so intentionally, developing more. And I just share at the end of my comment is that I love to hear, hey, you know what? My child was begging me to bring her to the church, and he was begging me. He wanted to be here. So
I love it. I love it. You know, before we get out of it, and I love this. I love the comments. Children inviting friends to come, how that's something that we celebrate. The fact that they think that this is such a great place that they want their friends to experience that. Absolutely agree with that. Love this. Love the comments. Love the engagement. But before we get out of here, I want to jump in with another question that I think is important, and I think it matters. I think that what you do, what you bring, how you lead, it matters, and we want to support that. So speak to the children's ministry leaders who are watching this now, who will watch this later. What can we do to support you? I mean, I think it's so important that we just not be it's so easy when you're over a certain ministry area to really get overcome with that area, and okay, I got to make sure this area is good. But what can we do to support you? Because I think a thriving children's ministry comes out of a thriving church as a whole, when people are working together, when people are supporting one another. What can we do for our senior pastors?
Yeah.
Get you a spa day.
I'll jump in. I'll jump in. You know, I took some time to think about this because I know this is something that I've been guilty of. Even before I was the lead pastor, I had a season where I was an executive pastor, so I was a little bit more involved in the ministries, and so I know it's difficult, and it takes a lot of just being very intentional to make sure that there is a connection and that the children's pastor feels our heart. You know, I think what I came up with, I think children's pastors have to keep the lead pastors a little uncomfortable. And what I mean by that, it's so easy for lead pastors to get so caught up in all of the details of children's ministry that we miss the true heart of what it's all about. I mean, you got to keep the stats in front of us. You know, you got to keep the sad and the heartbreaking stories in front of us of what's going on with the kids. I mean, we don't want sad stories. We don't want heartbreaking stories, but you know, you have to keep it. I mean, if something's happening with Gabriella, who we saw has grown up in our church. She's in 4th grade now, and maybe we just don't know that their mom and dad have been divorced for a year, but now dad has a new wife, and that she's dealing with, we need to hear that. David says this, break my heart for what breaks your heart. So I think my cry for children's pastor is break my heart for what breaks your heart, because it's like this. I mean, I need the subject matter to stay in focus. I'm an amateur photographer at best, but sometimes I think children's ministry, in the eyes of pastors, we're so caught up in the background, we see the background of, camp's coming up, registration, we got to send the deposit, we got to charter a bus, we got to do, all of the background stuff. When the subject matter is right in front of us, it's just out of focus. We see the stuff, and the kids are right there, but they're out of focus. So my question is, who controls the focus? I think the children's pastor controls the focus. And so you got to come in here and tell me what breaks your heart. Because if you don't tell me what breaks your heart, I'm never going to feel. You are the thus saith the Lord for the children of our church. I'm not. I'm not. I need you to be the thus saith the Lord. That's why you're there. It's because you are dreaming. You're thinking. You're praying. You are thinking of these kids, and this is something you're thinking about every day. We're not. We're not. We need you to put it in front of us, because if you say, thus saith the Lord, and this is what's going on, and the subject matter becomes focus for us again, I promise you, we'll build together, and my heart will be broken with what breaks your heart. So that's more than anything, is keep us uncomfortable. Keep us a little uncomfortable, because we're going to get caught up in the money. We're going to get caught up in how much it costs. It's easy for us to do that. But if you tell me about Gabriella and what she's going through, I promise you, our hearts will break for what breaks your heart.
Wow. Love it. Lalo, talk to us. Tell us what we can do for you. How can we support you?
Well, just to have an open and constant conversation. Sometimes they are like that I want them to feel supported by me, that we are totally compromised, that we care about what they are doing, and to reach the children's hearts and guide them to Jesus. So I just will ask to keep that open conversation, open channel of communication. Hey, what are your needs? How can we support you and make you feel more supported? That's yes. Okay. I think that's it. I cannot think of any other thing.
I love it. Engage in conversation. Okay. What can we do? How can we support you?
I think on the one hand, like I can't oversell the power of prayer. I mean, I feel like it's the obvious answer, but it also needs to be said. No, I can't oversell the power of prayer and intentional prayer. It's a humbling place to ask for prayer, but pastors should. We should. Because we need it just as much as anybody else. And then the next thing is tell the stories. And I think this is getting to some similar themes, but please tell the stories. What's going on in children's ministry? Get up on a Sunday morning and let us know. Post a video about what's going on, because I promise we'll listen, but you've got to tell us the stories and get us in the middle of what's going on, because we're happy to listen to it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. This was so good. You guys, thank you so much for pouring out so much wisdom on us. I think it's so easy to judge the work that you do, or to judge you not caring about what we're doing, which is why I wanted to have this conversation. And it was so enlightening. It just confirmed that our senior pastors do care. I don't know where you are in your life right now. I don't know what your relationship is with your senior pastor. And I hear people say that. I hear people say that all the time in children's ministry. Our senior pastor doesn't care. He doesn't know what's going on back here. He could care less about the children's ministry. I am here to tell you, I'm a firm believer that is a lie, that is not true, that they do have a heart for the next generation. They cared so much about the next generation that they brought you in, that they hire you to lead the way, to show them the way as well, which is why we must continue to invest, why we must be bold, as Pastor Kelly said, and be willing to make our senior pastors a little uncomfortable, and constantly update them, be in conversation with them, and join our hearts together as one, as is the goal of us in the body of Christ. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. Thank you for hanging out with us for this hour and 10 minutes. You guys are amazing. We are here so that we can grow together. You are not on the island by yourself. Child's Heart is all about us growing together, developing together for the purposes of moving children's ministry forward. So we will see you guys next month, same time, same place.
Thank you.
I am